Hey, how are you?
Hey Michael, how you doing?
Good, man. How are you doing?
I'm fine, bro. I'm glad we could finally do this.
Yeah, long time coming.
Yeah, yes, sir, yes, sir. Well, like I said, we missed each other a few times, but I'm glad we managed to get it in. Thanks for taking the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, very exciting, man. Happy to be on the show and looking forward to the conversation today.
For sure, for sure. Well, first of all, congratulations on yesterday. You guys had a great drop on your ships and everything. That was awesome.
Thank you.
We definitely. How did that go from your standpoint? It was all good. Everything went smoothly.
Yeah, everything went smoothly. You know, we added Atlas market pairs, so that was kind of a big feature release for us. Very much in demand from the community, wanting to be able to spend some of the Atlas that they've either purchased or will soon to be earning. We did encounter one small bug on the C9 market, but we'll be releasing some communications around that. But otherwise, it went
Oh,
seamlessly.
perfect. Well, yeah, that was our main. Yeah, we had major. We saw that. I'm assuming it's around the supply number.
Yeah, there was, just to get kind of technical with you, it was just an data validation error in our scripting program that we wrote, which automates the listing of these assets on markets. And this was kind of on the tail end of the integration of Atlas pairs. There were some assets that did not get minted, and then there were additional assets that did not get listed. And so we discovered that kind of late in the evening. And we were able to resolve it and get the items listed. There's obviously still some communication that needs to take place around what the actual bug was. So releasing a postmortem and trying to figure out if there's anything else we need to do to resolve that situation, given that some people did purchase those ships at a higher price point than was intended from the origination price.
From our perspective, we had a guy who didn't actually buy one because one of the joys of the game is right now, if you're an early adopter, the joy of the game is the planning, right? The organizing, the getting together. And then, like I said, we saw the 190 supply change to 174 pre-mint, and then during the mint, like it went, obviously I'm shooting that bug, turned it into 90, and now we see it at 174. So he was okay on the line with the C9. He was like 30,000, and then as soon as it hit 90, he was like, oh, actually, I'm good on. I don't know what's up with this. You know what I mean? Like I need to know what the supply is on these things. So it's good to hear that it's like it's a bug on it. But hopefully going forward we can get some real like static supply numbers on those. Or maybe are they not supply? Are they ever to change the supply numbers on those? Or once you guys have locked those in?
Yeah, so the supply numbers are completely dynamic from a couple of perspectives. I mean, the first is, I guess I would clarify that the quantities listed in the Galactic Asset Offering are not intended to change from us. So we, whatever we mint as the initial supply is the full supply that we would release as a team. Are those notifications on my side or are they on yours?
I think they're your side, yes, sir.
And I tried to close or disable notifications, but I just don't want to have these beeping constantly during our conversation. But so the initial supply provided by us is the total supply that we will be selling. Now, during gameplay, there's obviously going to be destruction of ships over time, right? So people exploring out in deep space, that's permaloss on ships. So that's going to lead to a decrease in supply, but also through the mining and extraction process, refinement, and the supply chain components that go into crafting and minting new NFTs, we'll see the production of new ships. Those same ships that we've released will be produced by players over time, and then will become available on the market at whatever price point they're willing to accept for the for the sale of that asset. And then the final point would be it's possible, though unlikely, given our ship pipeline, our current ship pipeline, that we introduce additional supply at some point in the future. This would be kind of predicated on massive user growth. So a ship like a C9 where there's 190 total supply. If we get millions of players, that's probably not sufficient to satisfy all of that demand. And we do want to ensure that people will have access. So whether that goes to the DAO as a proposal to determine like what the quantity is and what the price would be at the future or not, or we just kind of decide and say, hey, this is what we think we should do. We're going to issue out more ships now because the user base has grown by 100x. And, obviously what we're looking at is ensuring that we don't negatively impact the value of these assets that are on the market. So what we don't want to do is overinflate supply and just dump a bunch of supply on the market when the demand exists for it. So we won't do that. We will never do that. We're always going to be looking at what the growth in the community and user base looks like in making decisions that impact the economy of the game.
So yeah, I know you guys had spoken to Republic Crypto and Republic Realm to help consult with the setup of the in-game economics and Is that an ongoing relationship, or is that a touch base, or is that sort of a dynamic relationship also, or is that an original consultation, or how is that? Because as you can imagine, sorry to expand on my point, is you've referenced that you've listed like 35 to 40 job roles. Well, each one of those is in itself an economy inside the game, right? So I'm just wondering, how are you guys got a team to handle that as the game evolves, or what's the brain headspace for that?
Yeah, we have, it's a great relationship with them. I mean, not only are they assisting with consultation, advising on the economy, but their, Republic Realm is also a stakeholder. They hold tokens. They also hold NFT assets in the game. The existing relationship is we meet weekly, and we have a ongoing Discord channel. So we meet weekly. It's at least a 1-year relationship that, there's a possibility that gets extended, but the other side of it is we have been exhaustively searching for economists, both on like traditional economists and game economists that we can recruit into the team. And so that's been one of the more difficult roles to source, to be honest with you, a chief game economist, which is really the center point of the economy team. And we want to hire that role before we start backfilling in additional positions, because we want to make sure that the CGE has the opportunity to build his or her team as they deem appropriate.
For sure. I mean, honestly, you guys have to tread very lightly, right? Because as regulations are looming, and we are dealing with economies, that leads to a question of like, are you guys prepared for how are we going to deal with under 18s getting into this space and enjoying this game as the regulations loom and the access to crypto?
Yeah, it's a great question, and definitely something that we have our sights on. I mean, I think, a lot of the community now knows this is not the first company that I've co-founded. My former company was at the intersection of crypto and cannabis and payments.
Oh, I know, I love it.
Right. So, I mean, between all of those highly regulated industries, money transmission, cryptocurrencies, cannabis. So we're not risk averse to kind of operating in uncertain gray area around regulation, but definitely are looking to not only stay on top of that. So, one of the roles we just brought on was in-house counsel, who's going to help us coordinate across GCs and across any legal specialists that we interact with. We've also joined the Blockchain Association, which is the largest trade group in the industry that advocates for advancement of cryptocurrency and blockchain projects. And so those are kind of eyes, ears, voice for us in Washington. But the other thing that we'll be doing, and one of the things that we successfully accomplished with that previous company, Tokes, is we actually drove legislation in the state of Nevada. We coordinated and communicated with policymakers to educate them on the benefits of things like tokenized closed loop ecosystems for the cannabis industry. We're going to bring that same experience and expertise to blockchain gaming, which is, obviously an emerging area. And so it's not about lobbying and telling them what they should do. It's about informing and educating them on the way that these ecosystems function and work, right? And so we'll be active, we'll be proactive in speaking to policymakers and making sure that they're informed, right? So they can make the best decisions on how to regulate the industry.
For sure. I mean, and talking in regulation, you guys bringing your prior experience in, as soon as I heard, the tokenomics and how you guys were doing this, I immediately thought, okay, well, you've got, you guys working with Jet Protocol, obviously embracing the whole lending of NFTs and using that technology to allow, organizations and guilds to lend out their gear and stuff. So my initial thing was like, okay, well, if you're going to have lending, you're going to have risk. Because like you said, if I borrow your ship and I go deep and it gets destroyed, that opens up insurance. That opens up a million other markets. And so that's why it's like from the beginning, you have to be very careful going into this, because the second you start saying, hey, yeah, we're doing ship insurance in a game, or, things that are traditional, people go, wait, what? Right. You know what I mean? So but yeah, like I said, I was just wondering how are you guys looking to handle the ongoing fractionalization and borrowing of tokens and then damage of that, right? Like if I borrow your token and I destroy it.
It's one of the great advantages of operating, building on Solana, first of all, but just operating across decentralized ecosystems is we get to pull from all of these primitives that exist out there. So DeFi protocols that are being built on Solana, we can pretty easily integrate into the game, right? We all use the same API. We use the same language. We speak the same language. So for us, we don't want to have to go out and build all of those financial tools that people can use. We want to be able to leverage the existing innovation in the space. And we're able to do that quite successfully on Solana now, given the massive kind of success of the protocol, right? There's enormous amount of development going on across the space. So, but you nailed it. Things like lending, things like insurance and even just as simple as participating in LPs, right? Liquidity pools and doing AMM and yield farming and things like that. We can bring all of that to the players just through an integration, not through internal development, which is really beneficial for the speed with which we're able to grow the Star Atlas economy. But at the end of the day, we recreated the universe, right? And we're creating a fully self-sustainable economy within the game. That is a core mandate for us, is to ensure that we have a functional economy. And so that means, though, that everything that exists in reality can be recreated inside Star Atlas. And sure, it's going to take a long time to do that, but the opportunities are massive.
So that does lead me to a question: is so as we as a group, we're looking to organize and get in there as a faction, an organization, you know. And as you said, you recreate the outside world, and we noticed obviously already you have some large guilds, right? You have guys you already kind of have are mods in your Discord. I think it's the AEP or whatever. So those guys are already kind of getting traffic directed to them at this very early stage. And if you, like you said, you're trying to create this replica of what we've got going on in economies, well, what's going to happen is as it scales and new players come on, you're going to have an monopoly where only those large guilds can retain and have access to the big stuff, right? Because as it explodes, those guys will manipulate. It's just a fact of life. So is there anything you guys are doing to put steps in the way? Because I've already kind of noticed where, you know, even in your Discord, there's a couple faction or guilds, that are prominent within positions. You know, is there any way to make it, steps to make sure it doesn't get out of hand, if it will, for new people coming in, so a new org can compete with one that's been here for 10 months?
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. I mean, to be honest, I mean, we want to ensure that there's no favoritism played towards any of the entities that are interacting with Star Atlas. So I guess what I would point out is that part of our roadmap is developing out tool sets that enable guild formation. So things like treasury management, governance protocols, right? And we're doing that as a component, kind of a subcomponent of the master DAO structure that we're developing around Star Atlas DAO and the Polis token, but also things like fundraising tools, right? So being able to match capital providers with those guilds, those DACs that are looking to raise capital, and whether they do that through the issuance of their own token or the minting of their own NFTs.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, these are, so you guys are already executing on it, right? But we want to provide that tool set to everyone. That's kind of the general idea. So we want to create a fair and equal playing ground for everybody to operate within. Now, you know, the people that have been around for 10 months have also been in our Discord, assisting us with community support. So, you know, it's been extremely beneficial for us, and sure, we are helping to promote them. But any guild that tags me on Twitter, for example, look, we're doing this.
It does get to a point, though, where you have to draw a line and say, okay, we're now 150,000 followers, we're large, okay, we're doing our own thing, and we appreciate your help. But it gets to a point where we have to draw a line and say, okay, if you're going to be a mod in this Discord, I can't have you tag in your name, I can't have it right at the top of the right, your organization. You know what I mean? Like, there's two right now who sit up there. And so is there a point at which you come and draw, okay, appreciate the help, but like, we need to be impartial. We've got a team here that does this and runs this for us.
Well, it's very important for us to maintain objectivity, for sure, right? So we don't want to, again, play preference with anyone. What I would think, though, is I'll kind of elaborate on one of the additional roles that we're hiring for right now, which is it's the head of DAC relations. And so the general idea is that we have a single point of contact where all guilds can communicate, and then we start to coordinate things like marketing and exposure and tool sets and development around all of the guilds through a single person. So at least it's organized, it's coordinated, and again, we're able to maintain a balance in terms of who gets access to us and how do we provide benefits to other people. And so maybe in Discord, though, it's not that people have to remove their guild tag, it's that we ensure that we have equal representation of all.
There you go. Yeah, the answer could be many-fold. Yeah, I was just drawing attention for sure. You know, like I said, the part of the beauty of this is as it evolves, is we're there along for the journey. You know what I mean? It's just like with every other game. When something goes wrong, you say beta. You say beta. You know what I mean? That's the deal, right? You get you get that. And you guys don't even have alpha yet, so we get that times 10. So it's part of the joy of being early adopters.
100%. We're still pre-alpha, right? And
yeah, exactly.
You know, I hope what the community would recognize is that we do listen to that user feedback. So we're actively communicating with everybody in Discord across all of our social channels, and so there is no backroom access to us, right? No backroom deals being structured. Everything is public, everything is transparent, and we're open about it, and we try to proactively communicate with everyone based on the information we're getting and the decisions that we make around that.
But you do raise a good point there. There's obviously no back deals, but YGG came to you guys. You have venture investment, right? VC investment for assets. So say my group come together, we do our drop. Now we've got serious capital. What is the story? Why do I have to go through the conventional market? I've got $1 million in Sol. What's stopping me coming to you and saying, hey, I want to hammer a deal out here? Because obviously the pre-launch, I see guys getting assets for miners, and we obviously track the wallets, and we see that guys have already getting stuff that comes out on the 31st. So because they did the rebirth, and that's understandable. But from our perspective, what's the benefit for us to go through the market this way instead of just pooling our money, coming to you and saying, hey, bro, what can we get for this?
Sure. Well, it is open access to anyone, though, that wants to coordinate an early access purchase from us. I mean, just to be completely open, the minimum right now is a $3 million purchase. So we are, we're helping to facilitate those. Again, in full transparency, there's no discounts being provided. The core benefit is that people are getting access to the wave one, the tranche one, without having to compete on the open market for it. That's the exclusive benefit. Right. And so and then the other responsibility that we have is to ensure that we're not distributing too many of the assets that are intended to go onto the market through this early access process, because then everybody else is disadvantaged at being able to get access to those at the at the best possible price. So but going back to my earlier point, part of this will be through having this head of DAC relations that can start to coordinate these types of things and better communicate with anybody out there that is looking to, structure a portfolio with us that they can buy in advance.
That's what. Okay. So as we, I guess I'll shift gears just a little bit. So as you approaching score, we're approaching that deployment here really soon. So we're obviously exciting speculations about what to do with this. Just one question we have in community, real surface level. With the buying the crew and the ships, is the faction going to affect your ability to use different factions, gear and stuff you buy now? Like if I buy the legendary pilot who's Mud, is it going to be able to work as an Ooster ship?
So this is really a better question for Danny, just to be perfectly honest. Okay. He's definitely the visionary behind all of the gameplay mechanics, the gameplay pillars, the kind of the functionality of the game itself. That's all under his purview. But so I can attempt to answer. I might misspeak here, but generally speaking, all of the assets that you're getting. So right now, when you're purchasing ships, you're getting a fully outfitted ship with modules, with components, with crew members. Everything is fully fueled, fully stocked. Right now, in the future, that won't be the case. You'll have to go buy your ship as a hull and then independently retrofit that with all of those components. Now, with respect to the actual, say, crew members that you're using, they should be interoperable regardless of which faction that you're operating in. The separation is, what is the specialty of the faction in being able to do things like crafting? That's where we start to draw the line, and that's how we create game balance. Danny refers to it as rock, paper, scissors, but somebody always has an advantage and somebody always has a disadvantage in a particular category. So, but the crew members on your ship should provide the same benefits regardless of which faction you're in.
That's what's up. So are you guys all on track for score? We're looking on the 18th. Everything's going to schedule. Everything's on track.
Everything's looking really good. I again will kind of defer here to the roadmap and any updates to the roadmap. So we are moving ahead full speed here, and trust me, we're looking forward to getting score out just as much as everybody's looking. Oh,
I'm sure. Yeah, like I said, that feeds us, because obviously, like I said, the involvement here is our organization and the conversation, the 1,000,001 conversations, which circles back to the supply. Is that we spent all week basing what will, after the drop, what will 190 do versus the Calico Black, right? Is that going to go up to 36? So it's got this versus this. That is all we have. You know what I mean? And so when you start messing with stuff like that, we go, you know what I mean? That people pull back. So we're really looking forward to having that in game, so we can track each other's wallets. See what actual other organizations are dealing with size-wise, what we're compared to. It's going to unlock a whole bunch of conversations, if you will, the imaginary gameplay. So we're super excited about that.
Just on that topic, I love that you mention it. I made a comment a long time ago, somewhat cryptic, saying, you're already playing the game. Yes, the game is not like formally out, but even the whole guild formation and strategy and all, all of the stuff that's going into the analysis that you guys are doing and determining what to buy and how to coordinate your ship fleets so that they're most impactful and effective. That's all part of the game, right? That's already part of.
We've already built a metaverse, a headquarters. We have a council for positions that we are assuming will be in there, and it will grow. You know what I mean? Just we've the whole thing is to embrace it. While you guys are building yours out in Unreal 5, we brought ours out in Unity. You know what I mean? We'll just bang it out. Just let's have some fun. So and you see it all across. These little organizations are creating the game for themselves, and so we're super into that. But get onto the gameplay with how, from a staffing standpoint, how did you go about? Because you guys, like you said, you've self-confessed. Nobody's coming from really a AAA game background. How did you go about pitching that first guy, head of recruiting, or what that first big name that you guys were grabbing early on? How did you go about hey, this is this thing called blockchain, Solana. We're going to build. You know what I mean? Because there's nothing before you guys. So how was that pitch process to one of the big names who was coming from a good storied background?
Well, I guess to clarify, while we haven't, as a studio, developed and released a game previously, Danny Floyd, there's a reason why he's in the chief product officer role. He does have 2 decades of experience in AAA game development, right, and releasing mainstream titles. So really, the pipeline for us, which propelled us out into mass adoption, was him bringing on a team of creatives, so concept artists, designers. Not necessarily modelers right away. It was a large team of concept artists, and that was what allowed us to start to capture and visualize what the future potential of Star Atlas would look like. And so, picture's worth 1,000 words, as they say. And so using the concept artists to paint that vision of the future was a major part of it. And then also recruiting on the engineering side, just people that are interested in developing out in Web3. And so that led to the development of the marketplace, play.staratlas.com. We kicked off the Rebirth campaign, and it just continued to compound from there. And now, not surprisingly, we have a massive inflow of applicants that are just interested in building around this concept. So we've certainly reached critical mass. There's gravity around Star Atlas that is just inescapable. We have so many people applying every day. And fortunately, about a month and a half ago, we were able to bring on a new chief of HR. That's Kelsey Thompson. And he also added an internal recruiter. And so we've been headhunting, sniping, pulling talent, right? And so it's been going incredibly well. And it's just throughout my career, there's always a sales component of what you do in business operations. And this has been the easiest product to sell, because everybody is captivated by the future potential of blockchain, of cryptocurrency, and people love gaming, and people love massively multiplayer online games. So it's been really easy selling points for us.
Oh yeah, this is the fantasy. This is the plugin. Like I tell these guys, we hear I'm going to build my own spaceship, get in the morning. If you pitch because the deal is here, what you're pitching is capturing the attention span, right? What is, and there's the question of our generation is now, what is the human click worth? The attention, the minute, because this game could, like you say, Axis created, employment in Southeast Asia on a level. This could take that to another level almost because of the scale of which it's more interactive and the economies and whatnot. So it's very exciting in that space.
Well, and also, just the graphical fidelity, right? So, I mean, building an Unreal Engine 5 using nanite, hyper-realistic graphics, cinematic quality, I mean, this is going to lead to a depth of immersion that just hasn't been seen previously. So people are going to feel like they really exist in Star Atlas, where that doesn't necessarily exist in any of the kind of concepts that are building around blockchain gaming to date.
Mm-hmm. And so with development, you guys obviously starting fresh, Unreal Engine 5. Obviously starting fresh, there's no real expectation of gameplay for a while, right? But I mean, what are you dealing with the fact that you picked Unreal Engine 5? Are you thinking you're gonna have to deal with any problems with that, with the updates and stuff? 5 years is a long time, right? To start deving. Have you guys foresee any issues, or or you think pretty much we've hit the money spot on the timing for deployment of that?
We feel pretty confident about the selection of UE5, about the tech updates that come as a result of that. I mean, I think most people have probably seen the Valley of the Ancient demo. That was the PS5 demo. I don't know, it was probably over a year ago now, I want to say, that demonstrated some of the capabilities of UE. Now, sure, we're building in early access version of that, so there will be some changes along the way. And also, there's not great documentation around the different toolings. And I'm going to be a little bit ignorant on this because I don't work in the tool ever. But we do believe that generally speaking, UE is going to lead to an expedited development cycle. It's going to be faster for us simply because of all of the tools that are available now. With that said, we've had a full production team working in UE for several months now, and we're also not withholding releases for the complete gameplay. It's super important for us that we release experiences over time that allow the community, the user base, to get more and more engaged. And so the very first module that we're releasing in UE, we call the showroom module, and we would expect this to come out sometime in Q1 next year. So you're not waiting 5 years to get access to this hyper realistic gameplay, fully immersive gameplay. Now, can you call it gameplay? It's loading up a game client, it's entering into this 3D space, it's interacting with the showroom where you can see ships at full scale. I made a tweet about this not long ago, but it is so amazing seeing something like, the Pierce X4 next to the Guardian, right? And then seeing the Titan class ships next to the Guardian, where these things, like the turret system on a Titan is bigger than the Guardian itself. It's absolutely mind-blowing, and you don't get a sense of that scale by looking at 2D images on Marketplace, but you will when you enter into the showroom. And so you're going to be able to configure ships with all of the modules and components and crew members. You're going to be able to purchase those ships, and you'll also be able to deploy those through Score System. So you can either choose to interact in the showroom or on the web browser, whatever your preference is. And then we're looking at adding additional experiences around the showroom itself that little Easter eggs that I think people will enjoy. And then it's an iterative process from there. So every couple of months, maybe 3 to 6 months, we want to release enhancements or new features. So things like a ship racing module, a battle arena, 5v5 battle arena module, right? And there's just so many other things that we can do, and they might be separate initially, but over time they overlap and intersect with one another.
Yeah, essentially the metaverse starts to take shape, right? You start small little things right there while developing the larger picture. It's perfect to plan. So if I just had to ask frankly, I mean, I see the chat that's saying, your honesty is absolutely compelling for them, and a lot of people are sold from it. If you had to say right now, major concerns going into it, it doesn't have to necessarily be Star Atlas related, right? Like, I said regulations earlier. And what's really concerning you right now as we go into the end of the year in Q1 of 22?
I mean, being honest, we don't. I don't have a ton of concerns. I feel pretty good about our progress. I mean, certainly we'd love to. What we don't want to do, I guess, is lose the interest of the community in developing out these features. So I'm not really concerned about competition. Not terribly concerned about regulation. We've got our eyes on it. We want to be ahead of that. We're already taking proactive steps to accommodate that. For us now, it's we've got to build fast enough to retain the interest. And so we're hyper-focused on that, and we're hyper-focused on growing and scaling the team. And I think, you're going to see the release schedule just, I'll say decrease, right? It's going to be shorter timeframes in between releases, because we're going from a team of, it was 4 people at the beginning of the year. It's like 160 people, 170 people now. Will be 500 people this time next year. Star Citizen just released an announcement that they intend to grow their team to 1,000 people out of Manchester, like over the course of 5 years, I want to say. Yeah. We want to be 1,000 people within 2 years. So the one of the most difficult parts of building the team right now is just sourcing the talent in general, because there's not a ton of people out there that can build this vision with us, right?
And then you've got competitors, especially with the blockchain angle. Like, we've had guys in our chat who come in and ask, hey, I've got offer from Illuvium and from Star Atlas. Which one do I go with? You know what I mean? Like, why are you asking me? You know what I mean? But like, but yeah, so I see, and you mentioned Star Citizen there. So obviously you guys are sourcing a bunch of guys who have worked on, I can see from the art, from the graphic designers, they obviously have their page, art station and stuff. They're worked on previous projects, whether it be EVE or whether it be Star Citizen. Has there been any trouble like incorporating these guys working on different projects long term? Because some of these, you said you've exploded in hiring, and some of those have come from Star Citizen, some from EVE. Has there been any challenges in incorporating all these different project people into one project, or they rolled in pretty seamlessly?
They've rolled in pretty seamlessly. I mean, even Jonathan Berube, who was our, he's a internal art director. He was also director on the cinematic trailer that we released. So, first it was the teaser, and then it was the full trailer that everybody's seen of, the 3 faction characters kind of exploring space, right? Landing on the Diamond Planet. But he's a big name in the space, right? We were able to secure him. He has no interest in leaving. And I would say, it's kind of been the opposite. If anything, it might have been a little bit challenging convincing people at first, but now that we have the momentum that we have, not only are our existing team members more and more emboldened and passionate about what we're building, but as I said, we're attracting a lot of external talent as well. So while I think it's a challenge just because the talent might not exist in the world, we are in the best position right now to recruit that talent.
You don't see any threats from a game like Star Citizen or Eve retroactively putting in and applying blockchain?
So I just don't think that is a realistic threat definitely not in the near term, because we're talking about completely revolutionary business models here. So one of our great advantages is that we have deep expertise in blockchain development for nearly a decade, right? I've been in the space since 2013, again, launched previous companies. We're recruiting the best talent in the space already, and we're already building on, in my opinion, the best blockchain to develop a game on top of. And we have great relationships with teams like FTX, with Alameda Research, with Project Serum, with Solana, with all of these other projects that are building around Solana. Those all just directly benefit us, right? And so going back to your earlier point on regulation, a company like CIG building Star Citizen, they're a little bit monolithic at this point, right? They're not trying to innovate and be incredibly nimble. They're going to start assessing the regulatory landscape around crypto, around, enabling true peer-to-peer payments and transactions of assets. And they're going to say, their legal team is going to say, wait a minute, do we
mess
really
with the cash cow? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. So
for sure. I mean, but that comes as, and you guys, I guess we, as say, the community of Starless is scooping up, because right, there's a lot of disenfranchised Star Citizen and Eve players. Like when I first pitched Star Atlas, and when I first pitched people coming from Star Citizen, they roll their eyes and go, "Oh, not again." Oh, right. Not again, right? So if I had to, since we're talking about it now, I would normally end with it. If you had to just pitch those people, I'm not saying like 5 elevator pitch, but if you had to really tell them, why are we doing this differently than a 5-year slog where you buy and give us money? And I know that obviously the exchanges and the dexes make a difference, and obviously the governance tokens, but if you had to really nail those people coming in with no crypto and understanding of governance tokens and whatnot, what would you tell them, like in that quick snapshot?
Yeah, I mean, what I tend to describe it as is, legacy game development is really kind of this rental. I analogize it to being like a rental-based ecosystem versus the true ownership ecosystem that we're building inside Star Atlas, a true functional economy. In Star Citizen, you are renting space in that environment, and you get the entertainment, enjoyment value, the escapism while you're there. You have no way to recapture any of that value in the future. Star Atlas is obviously in stark contrast to that. If you get bored at some point in the future, you own a spaceship. And by the way, that spaceship might have appreciated in price, might have depreciated in price as well and gone down. But if you want to exit the game, you can exit at any time, and there's no barriers to that, right? So it's a totally different model. And again, I mean, I think the ability to capture value over time and plus earn off of those assets, even in rudimentary gameplay mechanics, makes it a far more compelling value proposition.
Yeah, your example, it's perfect. That's dead on. Your example actually led me to a question about the score. Is there something you could pitch someone? For example, you said the speculating on ships, and right now a lot of people are doing that, obviously, because you've got data and there's not many things to do. Is there a pitch on why we would stake them versus, speculating, on them?
We're not trying to drive speculator markets. I mean, we're building true utility in every one of the NFTs that we create, and obviously, score is the first functionality that's going to deliver that real functionality and utility for the NFT. So the idea is that the income generated through the ownership and through participation in some of these early mechanics is compelling enough that you don't care about whatever the price appreciation value is or whatever the speculative value is. It's would you rather have a recurring passive income stream, or would you rather proactively trade these assets day to day? Do you want to be a day trader, or do you want to be a bond investor?
Yeah.
Right. Again, trying another analogy. So that's the difference for me. I mean, my opinion is I'm going to buy chips. I've bought some chips. And by the way, I bought them on the open market as well, my own personal funds. And I'm going to stake those because
what did you get?
Well,
I mean, a little intel don't hurt something, a little something, but give some intel. What'd you get?
Yeah, I have 6 different chips right now. I'll tell you, I bought some of every one of the chips that came out yesterday.
Oh, nice. That's what's up. Yeah, I got a cheese slice. I got the rainbow, the cake slice, the cheese slice, whatever we want to call it.
The rainbow is cool, and that's going to be a really great manufacturer in the game. Super cool concept shift, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I see that you got the 2 vibes right now. There's a luxury sort of flex in polish, and then there's the army, the military vibe, and we're digging it. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, we have characters in our whole, because we have guys who aren't into shoot 'em up games, but are into trade. And so we have guys who are now for the first time getting into games where they normally wouldn't, because it's now like, hey, we need your trade skills. You're going to be highest trade chancellor. You know what I mean? So it's the explosion of all these different angles means we can involve everybody in. It's a, it's a really good.
I really want to expand on that a little bit because again, referring to a tweet, I spoke with Vicky with Business Insider last week, and I was talking a little bit about, why would somebody pay $5 million for a Titan class ship? And it's not necessarily, sure, it'll be extremely powerful out in space if you want to conquer lands and attack other players and, earn rewards through PvE missions. But the Titan ships also have things like concert halls on them, right? So we'll have luxury cruise liners in the game where their sole functionality is not to go out and participate in war. It's to provide experiences to other players. So imagine you own the Titan, you install a concert hall, and then you go out and coordinate with some performer. I use DJ Aoki as an example, but it could be anybody, right? You bring that DJ into the concert hall, and now you're selling tickets. We're not involved in that process at all. We don't get a cut of your ticket sales. You created the experience and you coordinated with the performer, and now you get to monetize your asset, and you're inviting other people onto your Titan ship to participate in that experience. That's so yep. out of the norm in terms
for
of
sure.
Like,
I mean, yeah, we already picked up on that. We've got two guys who are hip hop guys who we've immediately signed up, put a fake poster together, for our metaverse. We're 100% picking up all these different angles. And that's why it's, the beauty of no regulations is, hey, we can do everything we want to do and figure out if it works. And, like being the same, but it does, like being from a financial background like yourself, you can see how quickly these things get manipulated, and they get like, as soon as there is a market and there is a player who dominates that market, it's over. Because you just greed wins every time. I mean, one might not, but the next one will. And so it's just managing these things, because my thing was like, oh, dude, you guys are doing damage. I'm doing insurance. We're going to have a protection racket. You know what I mean? Like being straight with you. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm doing protection. I'm doing it all. You know what I mean? No regulations. So it's the beauty of it is the evolution, but it has to be governed, I guess. And so you are the regulation, right? And too much can be too much, if you will, at these early stages. So it's going to have to take some governing from you guys as people, because once we start going crazy, you know how it is. The hive mind will run with this and create 50 different opportunities.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be a certain degree of self-governance that exists across the ecosystem as well. And so to your point, right now, it's kind of centralized economic policy. We're kind of the central bank, right?
Yeah.
But we've even outlined this in the white paper, the game economic white paper, of what that transition process looks like. And so obviously a major component of governance is going to be the DAO in the long term. And so people that are governors and stakeholders to that not only earn rewards for being active governors, but they're going to be influential in the decision making that we make. And so while the hive mind can take over, it's also distributed consensus of what's the best way of implementing functions, features, rebalancing the game. All things like this will be influenced directly by people that are participating in the economy and the ecosystem itself.
Awesome. I love it. So like I said, we're super excited about it, man. We're super excited about all the different possibilities and how, like you said, as soon as you add, and I'll be honest, one of the ways I pitch it is, and full transparency is, listen, if you take every single space game, there has been a mistake, a pattern, every single one, Star Citizen, in early development, you can find patterns in trade, you can find something. And this is the first time that game results in real money. Like actual putting the time in and the work. And like I said, you can call those loopholes, you can call them what you want, but you have to actually play the game extensively to find them, right? There's data there, you have to find the trade routes or whatever it is, right? There's always something. And so that's one of the things I pitch to the community here is, listen, if we get in early here and we find a trade route or a mining route or something that's, we can make money here that we can take out and put in your bank account. You know what I'm saying? And so while, okay, from your perspective, that's like, fuck you, why would you do that to my game? From my perspective, it's like, this is real stakes. We're playing a real game where if they mess up, we make real money, right? It's in our best interest to follow these guys.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously we're going to do everything in our power to ensure that exploits don't exist, but to your exact point, I wouldn't be discouraged by people's ambition to participate in any type of exploit if they find it. It will be discovered by the community at large, but let me create another example, and that kind of goes back to the controversy around the original DAO on Ethereum back in 2016, where half the community was like, hey, this person identified the loophole and the recursive loop function was able to continuously withdraw funds from the DAO. I don't know if everybody's aware of that, but that's what led to the fork of Ethereum Classic versus Ethereum. And it was just a compromise that existed in that smart contract. That little background for people that weren't around that. But half the community was like, look, that's their finder's fee. They discovered the exploit. This is an on-chain program. Code is law. Whatever was written is written. And if that was the way it was written, then that's the way it was intended to function. And then the other half of the community was like, clearly, that's not the intended functionality. And so we have to do something to resolve this, right? But, we're not going to intentionally introduce exploits, but if somebody discovers that's kind of that's the
real life bug bounty, if you will. You know what I mean? Like, right? But like I said, it adds a whole aspect to it for us, right? Because this is the first time that's actually been something that you could put some effort and time into. Where if you found that in another game, it didn't really matter, right? You made some in-game currency, they could take it back from you, whatever. But yeah, like I said, so it's good to see that you guys have that same outlook. There's obviously no one wants to we would love that it's all fair and equal, right? But let's be honest, history repeats itself, and the best chances are we're human. And beta, alpha and beta are both things for a reason. So
100%. And let me just quickly, though, I would say the dynamic that might exist of an exploit in a traditional game will be dampened in a game like Star Atlas, because first and foremost, there's finite supply of resources that are going to be kind of delivered or extracted into the game over time. And so if you discover a trade route that pays a certain amount, one, you're only going to be able to get a maximum amount out of that trade route, theoretically, before the inflation for that specific activity is diminished. And then secondary to that is, if you find another exploit that allows you to like create assets and then start selling those, well, you're operating in real peer-to-peer marketplaces. And so you're going to put downward pressure on that. So it would still be incumbent on you to determine, like, how do you maximize the return off of that exploit? Because if you just extract a bunch of resources, dump it onto the market, it goes to zero, there's no longer any advantage there, right?
For sure.
So because we're functioning as a real economy, it diminishes some of the potential of those exploits, but nevertheless, they might exist.
But then comes the manipulation, like, you know what I'm saying, that you can mess with these things. And so hopefully, like I said, has there been any talk with Alameda Research? I don't know how that relationship works with you guys, if it's just a partnership with money and only, or if it's advice, but is there any advice they guys give you on how to function going forward, and how's that relationship work? Because we follow those guys on pretty much all of our investments. If they're in it, it's like, that's a good sign. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we still collaborate with them, but we don't direct them in any particular way. They don't direct us in any particular way. Part of the initial relationship was in closing the seed round with that kind of the whole consortium. And technically it was Project Serum that closed the seed round with us, but clearly there's the association there. But Alameda right now just does external market making. Again, we have zero involvement in that. They provide liquidity across a number of exchanges, both centralized and decentralized. So there's no coordination or direction provided either way. But and we haven't gotten any, say, advisory services from them in terms of game development. But that relationship might be enhanced when they own some ships and they're playing and they're beta testing and they're providing some feedback. Obviously, we'd listen to what they have to say, and incorporate their feedback just as well as we would incorporate anybody in the community's feedback.
And on the user level, if you in your mind had to picture, like, if you're in the decision right now, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this game and I'm deciding, hey, I've got my ship and whatnot. And now I have to split my $1,000 up or whatever into Polis and Atlas. If you're a smaller user, would you put more emphasis on them accumulating the Atlas, as you see in the ships, and we're adding it in for different things, or would you? And I know it's obviously not a clean cut question. Well, it's what it is to you. But where would you put the emphasis on Atlas versus Polis? I mean, obviously organizations are going to want Polis, but for a smaller user, smaller player.
It's such a sensitive subject for us to talk about, to be honest. What I will say is, the economics of the game were designed such that utility is driven to both of the assets. They have different intended functionality. So the more active players, you require Atlas to participate in the game's economy. So you need Atlas, you need to pay costs in Atlas. Obviously, you're earning Atlas, and then you have the ability to purchase new NFTs and kind of upgrade items and continue to grow your wealth over time by using Atlas. So that's more of like an active style of gameplay. For those people that are just looking for more passive participation, they can do so through participation in the DAO. You buy Polis, you stake it, you earn emissions, and then you get to participate in the future development. The core economic driver behind Polis is that it also captures part of the value of the entire economy of the metaverse. So every time there's a cost incurred, an operating cost through like repairing a ship, refueling a ship, paying land value tax, upgrading items, every single expense that's in the game that would typically be paid to an NPC and destroyed in a traditional game. So that's like one of the only deflation mechanisms the traditional game has, purchasing items, that currency gets eliminated from the game. That doesn't exist in Star Atlas because we start with a finite supply. It actually flows directly into the DAO. And so over time, you kind of accumulate Atlas in the DAO that gets distributed out. So it just depends. Do you want to participate in governance, or do you want to actively play the game? That's the best way I can differentiate the two.
For sure, for sure. So I guess on the player level, it's an Atlas and move because you're just playing, and your organization can take care of that. It really is the move. From interpreting that, I guess. But yeah, well, and
But one clarification. I mean, again, the Sopolis is kind of an ownership stake in the entire economy.
Yeah.
That I make that one additional elaboration point. So it's kind of like ownership of ships or ownership over the entirety of the economy of the game.
One random question I had, and actually I'd forgotten about it, just popped in my mind, is do you have any clarification on how it might work? And this is getting ahead of the game, but when we have the showrooms and whatnot in the metaverse, of how we might do multiple languages, how we deal with that within this metaverse.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously we're targeting a global audience, so we need to target a global communication strategy. So we've already been quite successful in this, in translations of every one of our economic papers, the white paper, information on the website, distributing press releases. We work with translation teams to be able to communicate effectively across different regions around the world. I don't know what it looks like in the game yet, but certainly we'll be looking to support some of the, I guess I don't want to say most popular languages, but the most adopted languages globally first, and then we'll continue to expand on that in time. Let me maybe add that this is another thing that somebody could propose to the DAO. Hey, I can translate this service into Tagalog, for example. I can translate every one of the communications in the game into Tagalog. And this is what I would request in funding to do that. And then the DAO can say, sure, we'll fund that. That's a reasonable price. And they go out and do the translations, and then we integrate it into the game. And now you get people all over the world working for the DAO, working for Star Atlas, that we don't have to directly contract with because it was all executed through the DAO itself.
Perfect. I love that. I love that a lot. I do like that. So I guess it gets to the point where if you're using the DAO, my mind just went there immediately to taxes. I was like, you can't pay that person. You know what I mean? Like you pay them and then you have to write it off, or I don't know how that works, but that's interesting. That's an interesting application of it. It's a really good use of the tech. And so I guess go ahead.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the individual that's kind of like paying. It would be the entity overall. So the DAO itself, its own registry structure. Right.
So I guess have you guys got any areas like I mentioned Axes in the Southeast Asia? Is there any areas you guys have targeted for marketing? I mean, I know it's so early right now. You really don't want to push marketing because there's a lot of people with their hands out saying, "Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up?" But is there any areas that you guys have already keyed in and been like, "Hey, we're not really. We want to really tackle that."
If I were to say anything, it would be like the APAC region, so Asian bloc. But it was more the go-to-market strategy was to target first crypto native users, people that understand functionality of wallets, that understand how to secure seed phrases, and otherwise interact with Web3 and DeFi in general. That was kind of like a starting point for us. That is rapidly evolving into targeting the mainstream gamer, and then ultimately it would evolve into targeting a global audience. We're not really focused on any particular region. If anything, it's kind of these regions are targeting us, and now we're just providing support there wherever we can through communications.
So just to elaborate, you circle back on something. We talked about the JET protocol, and you guys working with those guys on the implementation of lending and pooling, adding your assets to the pools. Do you guys have it pretty much wrapped up in your head how you want to execute that and deploy it, or are there still protocols you're interviewing for other aspects of that? Does JET offer everything you need? Like, how is that process looking for you guys on building that out?
There's it's quite likely that there's another innovative kind of lending protocol or tool set that we integrate into the game. We don't have any exclusivity, right? Again, we're pulling from all of the innovation across the Solana ecosystem. So if there's a tool that we think is valuable for our users, we will integrate. With that said, we're still very early in discussions with JET. They understand what our product requirements are, and they're building around that. They also have to build a product that's kind of universally usable, though, right? They're not building just for us. They're building, but keeping us in mind with the construction of their protocol. So there's not a ton of complexity from the start in terms of the design. It's, hey, we want to make sure that people can deposit assets to this contract. Other people can borrow that, they can pay a fee, and that it exists in a completely trustless environment. There has to be limitations. They can't go take this asset that they're borrowing and sell it on the marketplace. They can't take it out into deep space where it gets destroyed unless they also purchase an insurance policy on it that would replace it, things like this, right? So we have to think about all of the potential edge cases of how an asset could be deployed and used. And so Jet's really working on the implementation, and we've just described to them what limitations, features we require.
That's awesome, man. So, like I said, you've absolutely nailed all of my questions, bro. And then just to let you know, just give you some sentiment from the chat, they're loving the openness and just, how articulate you are with your answers, man.
Awesome.
So,
man. Love it. Yeah. Thank you.
But I really do appreciate you coming on, and hopefully we can get you on, a recurring thing as we start this relationship, because we're starting at, we've got a whole drop of, 7,000. We're starting to DAO. We've got a DAC. We've got the HQ Unity space. We're embracing it as a community, right? Like you said, this has already started for us. It started back in February, right? In that we have a week-long conversations about what's 190 of these T9s versus 235s of Calico Black. Let's look at the stats. So it's got a theater versus the med bay. That kind of game has already begun for us. So, man, I really do appreciate you taking the time. And I know we missed each other, but, man, I hope we can do this again, and maybe some other people from the team. Really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
Yeah, awesome. I didn't even know we were live until halfway into the conversation. But
on Twitch, bro.
The conversation is the same with anyone. Again, there's no backroom dealings here. We try to be open, transparent, and fair with everyone. But sincerely appreciate coming on. There were great questions. Look forward to doing it again in the future. And if there's anything we can do to further support you guys or otherwise, please let us know. Let's chat in Discord. Right? Again, we're completely open, and we want to make sure that we're providing that support to the fullest extent possible to anyone that is passionate and supporting us right now. So just let us know what we can do. But really enjoyed the conversation, man.
Appreciate it, brother. Thanks so much, Michael.
Okay.
Man.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Take care.